So thanks for joining us today on Leadership Log, which is a podcast for the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center community on topics of interest. And the topic of interest today is the Junior Force Council. So we're meeting with 3 members and learn a little bit about what the council is and what it does, why they got involved in it. Jonathan, we'll start with you. If you could just give us a little background on your career, introduce yourself to the audience, and let us know how you got involved with Junior Force Council.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Bustler. I am the president of the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, Junior Force Council. At Wright Pat, that's kind of important to denote. We primarily focus on the Junior Force Council members at Wright Pat Air Force Base because it's harder to communicate with other organizations and other bases and try to do what we do with like fundraising events and those type of things. So primarily at the Wright Pat portion of the LCMC. I have been a civilian with the LCMC since 2018, the summer. I have about 20 years experience in the Air National Guard, but I still fall under that 10-year limit that we request for Junior Force Council members. So the Junior Force, we have Air Force military or civilians, not contractors, non-supervisory GS-13s and below, and civilians who have less than 10 years. So any O1 to O3 or E1 to E5, and civilians with less than 10 years military, less than 10 years experience. So yeah, I joined as a directorate representative in 2019, just so I can network and get to know other people. I was fresh into working as a civilian and really didn't know many people. So this was somebody recommended it to me to come on and meet others, and I really enjoyed it. Working on fundraisers, working on lunch and learns where we get to speak with senior leaders and have some pizza, some local pizza. So it was had a great time doing it.
All right, thank you. And Lieutenant Toomey, we'll go to you next.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Toomey. I'm currently in LCMC in the Commander's Action Group. I am the Vice President of the LCMC JFC, and just like Jonathan, I am also at Wright Pat. Unlike Jonathan, I do not have a ton of experience within the government. This is my first duty assignment, and I just entered my second job here at the base. So, the reason I really wanted to, get interest and join a JFC and that stuff is because I felt that, there's so many different aspects about the Air Force, for civilians and military alike that, it's just not really touched on. So, with like those lunch and learns, we really get the opportunity to pick the brains of senior leaders and also, people that, maybe like GS-15, 06, it doesn't all have to be necessarily like generals and SESs. Basically get their perspective on leadership and then, just different career paths, different career options that I didn't necessarily know were available to me and to other people and kind of be able to pursue those. When I came in, one of the things I didn't really know was, the classic, I don't know what I don't know, right? I didn't know what I necessarily should be doing for my career. I didn't know what opportunities were available, and going through the JFC was something that, I thought was a good way for me to gain mentorship and to figure out those opportunities, as well as, help everyone else that I know is probably kind of in the same spot to some degree. I wanted them to have the same opportunity to learn and to figure out what they need to do. Kind of like what Jonathan just touched on, I also thought that the JFC is a great networking opportunity. So right now it's a little bit more difficult, especially in the COVID environment when a lot of people are teleworking. Traditionally, we would have a lot of events in person, but now with telework, obviously it's all virtual. But yeah, I think that the ability to network is very important, where I can gain perspective from anyone I talk to, right? Anyone that has my job, a different job, my unit, different unit, and kind of broaden, like I said, my perspective, because this is my first unit, my first assignment. So yeah, I really need to, I have a very narrow scope of what the Air Force is actually like. And I do like how the Junior Force Council integrates civilians with military, because as we know, especially, so I'm a PM by trade. So, in the PM world, it's predominantly civilian and even contractors. There's just not that much military. So figuring out exactly the roles that everyone plays, and being able to, gain insight into what they do and help me be better at my job, essentially. So yeah, I think the networking and the mentorship opportunities what really drew me to trying to become involved in the Junior Force Council.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, you're right. That's valuable information that you gain going through things like that. And so many people go through their careers and learn through the school of hard knocks things that they could have learned if they had taken the time to find a mentor and ask some questions. So Ashley, let's go to you next.
Thanks. Well, I'm very happy to be here. I came to Wright Pat as a program manager in 2018, and initially I had my previous job before coming to the base was in higher education, and so it was a very community feel, very close-knit group of folks, and I kind of found that missing when I came on base. My first office was in an office with predominantly contractors, and so I wasn't really getting that sort of familiarity among my team, and so that made it a little bit more difficult to settle into the base and settle into my role and figure out, which end was up. So my initial desire to join the Junior Force Council was just because I wanted to get to know more people. I wanted to expand my network, and I've really found it to be a great benefit now, knowing that I'm getting ready to rotate, being in a position where I will move around the base, have a few opportunities to explore different offices. Junior Force Council is a great way for me to talk to other people who have been in some of those other offices and get to ask questions and ask questions of people who aren't just a name on a computer, but they're folks that I've had the chance to get to know and see face to face and have conversations with. So I really feel like the connections and the networking, as both Lieutenant Toomey and Jonathan have said, the networking has been amazing, and feeling like I have the ability to really build a foundation of a network and a community for myself, so that when I do get ready to rotate or I have questions about specific offices, I can say, oh, hey, I know somebody that I met within the Junior Force Council, or maybe that, this person was helped out with an event, or they came to a lunch and learn, and now I can tap back into that connection to ask questions or use them as a resource. So I've really found that to be a really valuable way to extend my work as a program manager, not just in my office, but help myself be more impactful across the whole Air Force.
So now we should point out, Ashley, you're on the Wright Pat Junior Force Council, where Lieutenant Toomey and Jonathan are both on the AFL-CMC Junior Force Council. So although Ashley, you're an employee of AFL-CMC, okay?
I am.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your organization. How often do you guys meet? What are some of the things that you do? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So, sorry, was that for Jonathan or for myself?
For Ashley, we'll go with that.
Okay. So yeah, so I sorry, I didn't start out with that. I'm the president of the Wright Pat Junior Force Council. So I really think of the Wright Pat JFC as sort of an umbrella over the tenant orgs in NASIC, AFRL, LCMC. And so our executive board is made up of the leaders from each of the tenant orgs, as well as a handful of executive members that help out from a Wright Pat perspective. So our events are open to any of the junior force on base. Anybody who wants to engage with us is welcome. We do have those same parameters as far as age and experience. We ask for folks who are within their first 10 years of being on base, but really our events are open and welcome to anybody who wants to attend. We do a big annual Junior Force Symposium, and I should say was annual up until last year. We weren't able to have the symposium last year, but annually our symposium is a way to bring all junior force together, and really anybody who wants to come and just spend a day kind of learning and expanding their network and doing that professional development. So our events are typically mirror a lot of the events done by the tenant orgs and hosted by the tenant orgs, but they're open to anybody. And sometimes we'll piggyback on something that LCMC is doing and help promote those as well. Other times, it is more targeted and specific. We can help promote things if they're for a specific audience, or just promote it for anybody who wants to attend.
That's a great point that Ashley said about the training. Like we do lunch and learns, they tend to be focused on either the senior leaders of LCMC, or we'll do a class that is maybe PM specific, and we can share that with Ashley, and she can send that to anybody right Pat. So if it's anybody who's interested in what that topic is, can join us over there. NASIC will have one that is maybe it's Intel related, but anybody can go to it, so we can share that with any of our members who maybe just be interested in what they have. So we work together on these classes and things, and we'll share it. So to get the widest audience, we want to share this knowledge with everybody.
Mm-hmm. And of course, these meetings are all open to officers and enlisted and civilians. Remind me again, what are the requirements, Jonathan, if you could?
It is an officer, 01 to 03, enlisted, E1 to E5, or civilians, GS13, non-supervisory with 10 years or less experience.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And that's not a junior force, not necessarily means just young people. It's anybody. Like I said, I was part of the Air National Guard for 20 years now, but I have within 10 years of civilian experience. So I was able to join in. We have junior force council members who are in their 50s because they had just became a civilian with us. So they work. It's about the time that you've been in as a federal employee, not your age. So it's open to all ages, just that experience level. We want the junior force.
Okay.
I think the military environment can be really intimidating for some folks. Speaking as, never having worked in the military before. My grandfather was in the Army, but I have a couple brothers in the Marine Corps, but no Air Force employees in my family or Air Force folks familiar with any of that. So for me, coming into a military environment was very confusing. And I think the Junior Force Council is another great place that I can come in and say, I'm not sure about this person's title, or I'm not sure about how to address, this person, this senior leader. Can you help me figure out those dynamics? And talking to the enlisted folks who are in JFC can really help make those less intimidating conversations, and also more down to earth and authentic than just feeling like I'm always referring to some superior. It's very much like folks all trying to learn and understand at the same time together, and figure out our way to get through our training and to get to the next level of our careers, and feeling like you kind of have a buddy in that.
So it gives us kind of a sense of why you guys got involved. What has been your overall experience going so far forward? Lieutenant Toomey, let's start with you.
So I've been, I haven't been inside the JFC for a very long time. So initially what I did was I wanted to create a junior force council for my 2-letter organization, which is HI. So I had ended up working with Jonathan and someone else on how to kind of create that. And then as that kind of, developed, then I eventually went into obviously the LCMC board as the vice president. Sorry, I totally forgot your question.
That's all right. What was your overall experience?
Oh, yeah. So far, my experience with it has been mainly telework, which is, pretty unfortunate. So we've done a lot of virtual lunch and learns. The fundraisers and other events I feel like have been few and far between. So I'd say, it's been virtual, right? We're doing what we can, but we've really had we've really taken advantage of getting on some senior leaders and some other people's calendars, and really getting to pick their brains about all things leadership, mentorship, job wise, you name it. And we've been able to, discuss with them, and, usually they have a speech where we facilitate some questions, and then we open up the floor for opportunities from questions from the audience. So, if you're not part of the board, but you attend the lunch and learn, like, you will have the opportunity to ask whatever question you have, especially if it hasn't been covered in the initial, speech or questions. So I would say just basically my experience so far has been great in terms of getting to interact with senior leaders and to actually get that mentorship I was seeking, and just general job advice and, anything else. And also definitely a little bit of networking. I've seen some, names that have popped up on the screen or that I've interacted with is, I've had to interact with in my new job or my old job. It kind of makes more sense in terms of that networking. I'd say it's pretty invaluable. And I can't even imagine what it would be like when we start hopefully going back to some kind of normal / hybrid where we're in the office and we can go and do in-person events.
Yeah. Jonathan, what about you? What's been your experience?
I've absolutely loved it. Like I said, this is my third year being part of the council, but those opportunities that Lieutenant Toomey was talking about with senior leaders, we've had to do an interview with Ms. Young, the executive director of AFMC. My experiences led me to be able to be a part of the committee for AFMC's Agile Patriot last November, which is a 4-day leadership symposium. It was completely virtual, first for AFMC, and I had an absolute blast doing that. Got to meet some very, very interesting senior leaders with some great advice and some opportunities that people don't ever get to really be a part of, and that was a lot of fun. So, this year we're working with Ashley on the Wright Pat Junior Force Council's symposium, and I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be at the Air Force Museum, which is a place I absolutely love. And in September, we're going to do the Air Force Marathon. We have a booth that's there for water and Gatorade. So we're really looking forward to doing that again. Right now it's not canceled, but hopefully we get to do that because it's always a great time seeing thousands of runners and handing them water and giving them that little bit of respite for that long run. So now I've had a blast in the last few years being a part of the Junior Force Council.
Ashley, what do you think?
Well, I think it's been unique for me to come to Wright Pat and realize that in this Air Force environment, volunteerism is always encouraged, but it's not always engaged with. It's not always something that people take up as an opportunity. And the Junior Force Council was an easy way for me to volunteer for something and say, oh, hey, I'm willing to do that. And I found that senior leaders have been really receptive to noticing and acknowledging, oh, this is a person who has leadership potential and is interested in raising their hand and taking on something like that. So it's been a really cool way for me to slowly start to build myself on this base and let folks know that, I am a program manager. I'm interested in leadership. I desire to be involved and understand how things work. And JFC, like has already been said, is a great way to just kind of slowly dip my toe in. I started out as just being an at-large rep and understanding how the organization was arranged and what pieces and parts were made up of it. And then as the time went on, taking a more prominent role, being the chair of the symposium and now being the president. I think events like that engage all of the base. Young Guns, Old Pistols is another one of our flagship events for the Junior Force Council, where we allow our young guns, so the younger part of the Air Force, to go in friendly competition with our Old Pistols. So they do field games and sporting events, and it's a wellness challenge overall, but it's a way to encourage engagement, encourage you to get away from your desk and to get out and meet other folks on base. That has been a fun event in the past that had to happen in a different way in 2020 rather, but we're excited to get it started more formally and more kind of officially for this coming year. So I think anything that can get me away from my desk and out of my day-to-day computer focus of emails and processing documents and rushing taskers, all of that day-to-day is tied into what happens away from my desk when I'm doing Junior Force Council activities, because I'm still engaging with those same folks, and it's allowing our leadership to see us in a different light of, oh, hey, this is Ashley and she knows what she's doing when she's being a program manager, but she can also get up in front of a group and engage with folks on a volunteer scale. And so I just feel like it helps make me a more well-rounded employee and a more well-rounded airman to be able to support our Air Force from a programmatic perspective, but also from a, hey, let's get you out and engaged and get to meet folks and let the senior leaders see your faces. And so it's just been, overall, it's been a good opportunity to put myself out there. And as has already been said, it's frustrating to not really have been able to really put those pieces in motion for this past year, but it gets us really well prepared and excited to launch when we have the ability to, as things kind of get back to normal and the pandemic gets more vaccinated.
Now, I want to say, so you guys have talked about getting information from senior leaders, but what has been the opportunity for you to give feedback to senior leaders about the organization and maybe some of the things that you guys see from your perspective within the organizations, that would enlighten them about how the world really works. Jonathan, let's go with you.
We recently, in the 2 years previous of me taking on as a president, we were missing a core piece of the Junior Force Council, and that was a senior leader or a senior advisor. So one of the first things I did was reach out to Ms. Watern, the executive director of LCMC, and ask her if she would mind taking on that role. So we got the opportunity to sit with her in a meeting a few weeks ago and talk about that. So we were able to relate some of the issues that we've had, as a Junior Force Council or as newer members, and that's something that's providing direct feedback to senior leaders. And we were also able to receive some information back about how can we reach out. During the pandemic, it's been very rough. We've noticed a lack of participation in these type of things. I think that's gone around to a lot of different development groups, the NCO councils, stuff like that. They've noticed a lack of participation too, because people are sitting in front of their computers and not being able to participate, or don't feel like they can't participate because we're not meeting in person. So some of the feedback that we were able to give Ms. Watern was that people aren't getting away from the computer, just sitting there doing their work and not being able to network. So how can we work on that? How can we keep these groups, these development groups, alive during these times? So that's something that we feel that was really important, and we were able to let the senior leaders know.
Yeah, the organization goes through, we do like the DEOC survey and things like that, where they're trying to gauge and get feedback from all levels within the organization. So I know it's important for leaders to get that, especially, as we go through diversity and inclusion and things like that. They need to get this feedback on what the rank and file of the organization thinks about those kinds of topics. And so, Ashley, what do you think about that, or what opportunities have you had to really give feedback to senior leaders?
I think a conversation that has not happened, it's not fully completed, but a conversation that started in the last couple of years. Our AFRL tenant org and the LCMC tenant orgs have both kind of had conversations and moving in the direction of, what does our name mean? Are we the Junior Force Council, and does the general population at Wright Pat or across the Air Force understand what the Junior Force Council is? We wanted to try and educate as much as possible so that folks understood that you don't have to be 21 and a brand new college grad and this is your first professional job. That's not the only people that make up the Junior Force Council. So I think, as Jonathan mentioned, of like us, helping senior leaders understand what our organization does, we're also helping understand how they view us, and making sure that this Junior Force Council doesn't just box us into one demographic, but that they understand that there are folks who are in their 30s or 40s or 50s, as Jonathan had said, who are just brand new to the Air Force, and so they just need to understand the perspective of being on a military base and what it means to have a career in the military versus how to find the cafeteria, when we were working on base, as a bad example. But I think it's to understand, have the senior leaders understand what our needs are as the newer folks on base, and for us to understand what they're looking for from us as we're coming up in our leadership development.
Lieutenant Toomey, so how has this impacted your involvement, impacted your career, do you think? Do you feel like it's made it more rewarding, and you're more likely to stay in for a longer time, or what are your thoughts in that?
I would say definitely having that engagement with just leaders in general, has really given me the opportunity to figure out, like I said, like what I need to do for my career. If I want, like, what opportunities are available. There's so many cool things that the Air Force provides. It's members that a lot of people just aren't even aware of. So yeah, I think that for me, just knowing what's out there has allowed me to, maybe reinvigorate a flame, so to speak, and really want to, stay in and so on and so forth. I think that it's, like I said, I think that just being aware of, what's out there is, very, very influential for me. And also being a PM, especially a young PM, there isn't a lot of opportunity for me to lead. So having kind of a little bit of a leadership role on, the LCMC council has, allowed me, I think, to kind of get that taste of, okay, like I'm going to put some events together. I'm going to, try to bring the junior force into this and try to, how do I motivate them? How do I excite them? How do I, like I said, motivate them to be in the Air Force and want to participate in these things and get excited about their careers. So just the leadership opportunity I've had, on the council, along with the opportunity to pick the brains of our leaders and figure out what's available for me as a young lieutenant, has definitely, made me more excited and about my career in the Air Force, and definitely makes me want to stay and pursue this.
Okay. So we're just about to the end of our time, but before we close, I want to go around and give you all an opportunity to weigh in with some final thoughts. Anything that we forgot to talk about, or anything that you'd like to add. We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, one thing I would definitely want to let everybody know is that we still have spots open on the council right now. With the pandemic, like I said, that there's less participation, and we definitely want to keep the organization alive. We are still in need of an operations officer and a public affairs officer. So these are people who very critical positions on the council that we definitely need. So if you are interested in applying for those, please email me at aflcmcjfc@us.af.mil, and we can definitely get you the application and the charter, so you know what the roles really entail. Again, this is at Wright Pat. We don't have the reach to the other bases. And if you're just interested in participating as a directorate representative, we would like to have at least one rep from every directorate on base, just so we can know what you guys are going through, something that we can bring up to the senior leaders. Please email us, and we have some volunteer opportunities, which looks great on your EPRs, OPRs, or your appraisals. Like I mentioned, the hydration station at the Air Force Marathon. We got the symposium coming up this fall. If you're interested in any of these things, please reach out. We would absolutely love to have you.
Great, thank you. Ashley, we'll go to you next.
Thanks. I would just say I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone, and maybe participating in something like the Junior Force Council is a little scary because it's new and different. But I would just encourage you to take a risk and take the opportunity to be a part of something that might be a little new and different, and see where it takes you. It's been a great opportunity to make some friends and meet some new people, and do something that's not just sitting at a computer. So I think it's a good way to stretch different muscles in your professional body, and so I would just encourage anybody, as Jonathan said, whether you take a leadership position or not, whether you take a formal role or not, you're welcome to participate and be as active and engaged as you want to be. So as I would echo what Jonathan and Lieutenant Toomey have said, as far as the opportunities for leadership and the opportunities to meet new folks, is for me the biggest benefit of being involved in the Junior Force Council. So I look forward to meeting you all.
And Lieutenant Toomey, final thoughts for you?
Yes, I'll just piggyback off of what they're saying, right? There's obviously a lot of opportunities out there, whether you want to join on the LCMC board or you want to join for like a directorate position, like representative. But I would even go further and just say, like why not just call into one of the lunch and learns and just like give it a try. If it's not for you, then no harm, no foul. But it could be something that is really influential, or something that you think really benefits you. So I would say at least just kind of take that risk, go out on a limb and just give it a try, and just try to call in or participate in some kind of event, and see if it's something that resonates with you. I know that us as the Junior Force Council, speaking for all of us, we would love to have more members and more engagement, and hopefully at the same time be beneficial for you as a member. So I would say, agree, step out of your comfort zone and try to participate and at least just give it a chance. I know for me personally, I wasn't so sure about it at first, but the more I kind of participated, the more I was like, oh, I I really like this. So I think a lot of people would probably have that experience.
It sounds like great advice. Everybody, I really appreciate your time today for joining us on here on Leadership Log, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. You too.
Thanks.